My husband received a $340,000 year-end bonus in November, and that same evening, over pasta I'd cooked from scratch, he slid a printed spreadsheet across the table and asked me to split the cost of Christmas dinner 50-50. I remember staring at that paper for a long moment. The numbers were so neat, color-coded, even. Turkey, sides, desserts, decorations, wine. He had estimated the total at around $800 and highlighted my half in yellow. I didn't say anything right away. I twirled my fork. I looked at my pasta. I looked back at him. "You want me to pay $400 toward a dinner for your family?" He corrected me gently. "Our family." His parents? His 2 brothers? His sister-in-law? Their 4 kids. His aunt who always comments on my weight. 14 people total, and I could count on one hand the number of times any of them had said thank you for a meal I made. "You just got $340,000, I said. "That's separate," he said. "That goes into investments. You know that." I did know that. I had learned it the hard way, over 6 years of marriage, that his money and our money were 2 completely different things. We had what he called a structured financial arrangement. When we got engaged, his mother sat me down and explained very warmly, very carefully, that her son had worked hard to build his wealth, and it was only sensible to protect it. I was 27. I was in love. I signed the prenuptial agreement with a smile and a fountain pen his father handed me. What the agreement said in plain language was this: everything he earned before and during the marriage remained his separate property. His salary, his bonuses, his stock portfolio, his 401k. What we shared was a joint account we each contributed to equally, $2,500 a month from each of us, for mortgage, groceries, utilities. Everything else was ours individually. The problem was that his everything else was $1,340,000 bonuses and a base salary of $280,000 a year. My everything else was a freelance graphic design business I had built carefully since before we married, which in a good year cleared $68,000. We both put in $2,500 a month. The math was the same. The lives we could afford outside that were not. And still, for 6 years, I had hosted. I had cooked. I had planned every holiday, every dinner party, every birthday gathering, every casual Sunday lunch that somehow ballooned into 12 people and 4 courses. I had driven to 3 different grocery stores for specific ingredients. I had stayed up past midnight making pies from scratch because his mother once said she loved homemade pie, and I had filed that away and treated it like an assignment. Nobody had ever offered to pay me for any of it. He pushed the spreadsheet a little closer. "I thought it would be fair," he said. "We agreed on splitting shared expenses." "Cooking for your family is a shared expense? It's our home. It's our Christmas." I picked up the spreadsheet. I looked at it carefully. Turkey, $85. Sides, $120. Desserts, $95. Wine and beverages, $140. Desserts, $95. Wine and beverages, $140. Decorations and table, $210. Miscellaneous, $60. Neatly totaled, neatly halved. "Okay," I said. He looked relieved. He reached over and squeezed my hand. "Great. I knew you'd understand. You're always so reasonable." I smiled. I folded the spreadsheet and set it beside my plate. That night, after he fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and a cup of tea, and I started making my own spreadsheet. My best friend. I've known her since college. She's the kind of person who will tell you the truth even when it's inconvenient. Had called me that afternoon before dinner, before I even knew about the bonus or the yellow highlighted paper. She had called to vent about her own holiday stress, and somewhere in the middle of it she said, almost offhand, "You know what I always think about? How much it would cost to hire someone to do everything you do for his family every year. Like, actually hire someone. Caterer, event planner, house cleaner. Have you ever added that up?" I hadn't. But sitting at the kitchen table at 11:30 at night, I started to. Meal planning and grocery coordination for 14 people. That was easily what a professional meal planner would charge. I looked it up. Around $150 for the consultation and plan alone. The grocery shopping itself, including 3 stores, mileage, 2 hours of my time at a reasonable hourly rate for skilled labor, $95. The cooking. I had always made everything from scratch: turkey, brined overnight and roasted, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, sweet potato souffle, cranberry sauce, real cranberry sauce, not from a can. Dinner rolls I proofed myself. 2 kinds of pie. A Yule log cake because his youngest nephew had asked for one last year, and I had remembered. If I were catering this dinner professionally, at market rates for a private chef in our area, I was looking at somewhere between $600 and $900 for the cooking alone. The table setup. Linens I owned, ironed the night before. Centerpieces I assembled from things I bought at the craft store. Place cards I hand-lettered because his mother had once said she liked the personal touch. 2 hours of setup, conservatively. The cleaning before they arrived. The cleaning after they left. The coordination of timing so that 14 dishes hit the table at the right temperature at the right time. I added it all up. Then I added up every Christmas I had done this. Every Thanksgiving. Every Easter. Every casual birthday dinner. Every client dinner he had hosted at our house where I cooked and smiled and refilled glasses and then cleaned up after everyone left. 6 years. I closed my laptop. I finished my tea. I sat in the quiet kitchen for a while. In the morning, I told him I was happy to move forward with his plan. 50-50 on the Christmas dinner budget. I was completely on board. What I did not tell him was that I was also going to follow the plan exactly as written. The spreadsheet said $800 total, split in half. That meant each of us was contributing $400 to the Christmas dinner. His $400 would cover his half. My $400 would cover my half. My half meant exactly that. My food, my portion, my plate. I started planning the logistics quietly, the way you do when you know the outcome matters more than the announcement. First, I called a local caterer I had used for a baby shower 2 years earlier. I explained what I needed: a full Christmas dinner for 14 people, delivered on December 24th, everything included, setup optional. She gave me a quote of $1,400, which was about what I expected for that number of guests and that level of food. I did not book that order. Instead, I ordered a complete Christmas dinner for 2. My husband and me. From a smaller local restaurant that did holiday meal packages: turkey breast, stuffing, 2 sides, a small pie. $95 total, pickup on December 23rd. I also quietly confirmed with my husband's family, over a group text he was copied on, that we were keeping things simple this year. I mentioned I'd been very busy with work. Several people said, "Of course, no worries." His mother sent a heart emoji. His older brother said they'd bring something. Nobody asked what simple meant. My husband didn't pay close attention to the group text. He was in the middle of a deal at work. He saw the thread, saw everyone respond positively, and moved on. I did not lie to anyone. I said we were keeping things simple. That was entirely true. The week before Christmas, I did something else. I sat down and wrote out, in a clean document, a full accounting of what I had contributed to our household in unpaid labor over 6 years. I used conservative figures. I used actual market rates for our area. I cited my sources: housekeeping and cleaning, roughly 4 hours per week for 6 years, at the going rate for professional cleaners in our city, which runs about $25 to $30 an hour. I used $25 in time pound. Meal planning, grocery shopping, and cooking, roughly 8 hours per week, which I valued modestly at $20 an hour, below the rate for a personal chef but above minimum wage. Holiday and event planning and execution, I itemized every major gathering separately. Client dinners hosted at our home, which had directly benefited his career, I noted 14 over 6 years. I valued these at $300 each for my labor alone, not including the food I had paid for out of our joint account. The total, conservative, documented, understated, came to just over $112,000. I printed 2 copies. I put one in a folder in my home office. I gave the other to my attorney, whom I had called 3 weeks earlier, the day after the spreadsheet appeared at the dinner table. Christmas Eve arrived. I had picked up our dinner package the night before. It was in the refrigerator, labeled neatly. turkey breast for 2, cranberry relish, roasted Brussels sprouts, dinner rolls, a small peppermint pie, everything we needed for a quiet, lovely dinner. His family arrived at noon. His mother came in first, holding a bottle of wine and looking around the living room with that particular expression she had, the one that was almost approval but not quite. His brothers came in behind her, kids spilling past everyone's knees. His sister-in-law, who I genuinely liked, caught my eye in the entryway, and I smiled at her and she smiled back. And I felt briefly sorry that she was about to have a confusing afternoon. "Something smells good," his mother said. I'd put a pot of apple cider with cinnamon sticks on the stove. The whole house smelled like Christmas. That part was not a lie either. "Can I get everyone something to drink?" I asked. I served cider. I put out a small cheese board I had assembled from things already in our fridge. Nothing special, just what we had. His mother ate a cracker with brie and looked satisfied. His older brother wandered toward the kitchen and looked at the stove. The pots I normally had going by noon were not there. "You need any help in there?" he asked, which was the first time in 6 years he had ever asked me that. "I'm all set," I said pleasantly. By 1 o'clock, the energy in the room had shifted slightly. The kids were asking about lunch. His aunt asked what time we were eating. His mother drifted into the kitchen and opened the oven, which was empty, and closed it again. At 1:15, my husband appeared in the kitchen doorway. He looked at the oven. He looked at the refrigerator. He looked at me. "What's for dinner?" he said, quietly enough that the others couldn't hear. "Our dinner is in the fridge," I said. "Turkey breast for 2, Brussels sprouts, rolls, pie. I'll heat it up around 4. He stared at me. "For 2, he said. "You wanted 50-50, I said. I did the math. My $400 covered our portion. He opened the refrigerator. He saw the labeled containers from the restaurant. He stood there for a moment. "What about everyone else?" "I assumed they'd handle their own portions," I said. "Isn't that the arrangement? Everyone covers their share?" I watched his face move through several expressions. I had seen him in high-stakes negotiations. I had seen him calm under pressure. He was not calm right now. He pulled out his phone. He left the kitchen. I heard him in the hallway, speaking quietly and urgently. I heard the words "takeout" and "how fast" and "anything open today." I went back to the living room and sat down with my sister-in-law, and we talked about her daughter's school play for 20 minutes, which was genuinely lovely. His mother found me shortly after. She sat down across from me with her cider, and she was very composed, the way she always was, and she said, "It seems like there may have been some confusion about dinner today." "I don't think there was any confusion," I said. "My husband and I agreed to split costs 50-50 this year. I budgeted for my half. I assumed he'd handled his." She looked at me for a long moment. "He didn't mention anything to us about this arrangement." "No," I said. "I imagine he didn't." My husband managed to get a Chinese restaurant to deliver. It arrived at 2:30, a collection of cardboard containers, enough for everyone, spread across our dining room table that I had set with the linen tablecloth and the hand-lettered place cards I had made 3 years running, because I had not seen any reason to take those down. 14 people ate orange chicken and fried rice off my grandmother's china. His aunt made a comment about the interesting choice. His older brother laughed, which I appreciated. The kids were delighted. His mother said nothing and ate her lo mein with a composure I genuinely respected. My husband and I had our turkey breast and pie at the kitchen counter after everyone left. He was quiet for a long time. "You made your point," he said finally. "I wasn't making a point," I said. "I was following the agreement. You know what I meant." "I know exactly what you meant," I said. "And I know what you didn't mean to mean, which is that for 6 years, my cooking and planning and shopping and cleaning were worth nothing, and now that I've quantified it, you're upset." He was quiet again. "I want to talk about the prenup," I said. He looked at me. "Not to fight about it. I want to actually talk about it, about what it's cost me, about what I've contributed, about whether this is the kind of marriage we both meant to build." I slid the folder across the counter, the one with my accounting in it. He opened it. He looked at the first page for a long moment. $112,000, he said. Conservative estimate, I said. I used rates below market. He closed the folder. He didn't say anything for a while. The house was quiet now. Everyone gone. The last of the linen tablecloth pulled straight. I didn't realize, he said. I know, I said. That's sort of the problem. We went to couples counseling in January. It was not easy. There were sessions where I cried, and sessions where he was defensive, and one session where he was defensive, and one session where our therapist, a very calm woman who charged $250 an hour and was worth every cent, asked him to describe in detail what a typical Saturday looked like for each of us, and he could not accurately describe mine. That was its own kind of answer. By March, we had renegotiated our financial arrangement. It wasn't simple. There were attorneys involved, several long conversations, one evening where we sat at the same kitchen table and talked until 2 a.m. He didn't give me half of everything, but we restructured. Our joint contribution was rebalanced to reflect our actual incomes proportionally rather than equally. I was compensated, not fully, not retroactively, but meaningfully, for the years of domestic labor. A number was agreed on. It was more than zero. It was less than $112,000. It was a start. He also started cooking dinner on Thursdays. He was not very good at it. He made the same 3 things on rotation. One Thursday, he burned the rice so badly the smoke alarm went off, and he stood in the kitchen looking genuinely baffled, and I handed him the window opening pole and I didn't say a word, and somehow that was more satisfying than any spreadsheet. His mother called me in February after she'd heard some version of events from her sons. She was composed as always. She said she wanted to understand what had happened. I told her. Gently. Completely. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I think I owe you an apology. I'm the one who suggested the prenuptial arrangement to him. I hadn't known that. I sat with it for a second. I know you were protecting your son, I said. I was, she said. I didn't think enough about what it would mean for you. It was not a grand apology. It was quiet and a little stiff, and she was not a woman who found those conversations easy. But she meant it. I could tell she meant it. Thank you, I said. We are still married. I am sometimes asked, by people who know pieces of this story, why I stayed. It's a fair question, and I don't have a simple answer. What I have is this: he is not a bad person who did a bad thing. He is a person who had never been asked to see something, and when he was finally asked, in the most concrete, spreadsheet organized, orange chicken on grandmother's china way possible, he looked at it. He actually looked. That's not nothing. Last Christmas, he planned the dinner. He called a caterer. He handled the budget. He coordinated with his family. He stood in our kitchen at 7:30 in the morning looking mildly panicked about whether he had enough serving dishes, and I leaned in the doorway with my coffee and watched him, and I did not help. And I did not feel guilty about that. He did fine. He texted me from the grocery store at 9 asking where the good butter was, and I texted back the name of the brand and the aisle, and I thought, yes, this is what it feels like when someone finally learns the work was real.